The king of soundstage in an IEM has achieved a new form, the Mark III. Hello and thank you for clicking on this video where I'll be sharing my experience on the next iteration of one of my favorite IEMs, which is the Unique Melody Mest Mark II, now in its upgraded form, the Unique Melody Mest Mark III. We're getting a lot of Mark IIIs happening around here. First the Monarch and now this. Ooh, better of the Mark IIIs coming soon. Focus! Let's talk about the Mest Mark III first, but before I begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Damien for arranging a review tour for the Unique Melody Mest Mark III. This video wouldn't have been possible without the Australian review tour, so I really appreciate the opportunity, and if any of you would like to check out more written impressions of this IEM, I'll leave a few links in the description down below. Now that's all out of the way, let's talk about the unboxing experience, and Unique Melody really knows how to give you an experience. You'll be greeted with the box itself, and opening the box you have a greeting card from Unique Melody, which is a nice little welcoming touch to your experience. In the box itself, it comes with a strap, a Unique Melody cleaning cloth, some interchangeable ear tips which are Unique Melody's own ear tip design. For the case, they've changed the case to this circular carry case which opens smoothly and is big enough to store the cable and the IEMs themselves. There's also a small carrying sleeve to put your IEMs in to protect them further, and for the cable it comes with 4.4 termination. Speaking about the cable itself is really thick. The plus side is that it'll never tangle because it's so stiff, but that's its downside as well. You can almost whip someone with this. So if you like a cable with girth, then the Mest III's cable is going to satisfy you. Yes, I heard it and I'm keeping it.
As for the design of these IEMs, I am honestly not a huge fan of the stock faceplate.
There's a blue or red variant for the design, but that 3 black marks over the faceplate representing the Mark III and the black lines over the transparent shell, for me personally, it looked like a kid took a marker and just drew all over the IEM. It's not the most sophisticated design I've seen, and I honestly prefer the design on the Mest Mark II a lot more than I do on the Mark III. Sure, it has a gold ring and you can sort of see through the shell and the drivers are peeking through, but I would rather prefer they just make it a transparent red with like 3 solid black lines across the faceplate like Adidas or something. Busier design doesn't necessarily mean good design, and it's definitely not a representation of how it actually sounds. But as I've said before, design is subjective, so you may like the look of this IEM, but it's not grabbing my attention like the Mark II did.
Fortunately, these faceplates and resin shell colors are customizable if you're thinking of going customs.
Also, the Unique Melody Mest Mark III has driver flex, and it's that crinkling noise when you push the IEMs in your ear. It doesn't affect anything on its sound performance, but it's just a very annoying sound to hear, and not what I would expect at this price point. For fit and comfort, despite having 10 drivers per side, it's still a relatively compact IEM, and it has the right curves and contours that it sits in my ears comfortably, and I could listen for them for hours no problem. Now, let's talk about sound. For bass, there's sufficient punch and slam for bass, and it has a little bit of a rumble coming in from the deep end. However, similar to its predecessor, it's not something that it'll satisfy bass hits anytime soon, as it is presented in a very controlled manner. The bass notes are full and weighty, which you can hear it, but you don't necessarily feel it. As mentioned in my video on the Mest Mark II, I think the bone conduction driver is contributing to the sense of vibration in the sounds, so like the vibration of a string being plucked. If you're thinking the bone conduction is going to give you some soul-sucking, deep, rumbling sub-bass, then bring your expectations back, because I don't think that's what that driver is doing or contributing to. All in all, it's sufficient to accompany the track, but if you want more pound and if you're all about that bass, then the Mest Mark III might not quench your thirst. For mid-range, similar to the Mest Mark II, this is a presentation where the background music is given as much presence as the vocals. So the sound is received as a whole, and the entire presentation is recessed as well, but it's not to a point where sounds are inaudible. That recessed presentation also contributes to the illusion of a wider soundstage, which I'll explain more later. The note weight on the Mest Mark III is definitely fuller, especially when compared to its predecessor, but it's definitely still missing that note weight for me personally. So similar to its predecessor, if you're into vocal focused tracks and you prefer your singers to take center stage, then the Unique Melody Mest Mark III would not fit your criteria. But if you like to receive your sound as a whole, oh boy, stay tuned until I describe the Mest Mark III's technical capabilities, because it will envelop you in a good way. For treble, if you found the Unique Melody Mest Mark II to be on the sharper side, then the Mest Mark III has brought that sharpness down, which makes it more palatable to the general masses. But I would still put a mild caution to treble sensitive people, but for me personally, it has enough treble to make vocals sound open and clear without sounding too thin, which I feel is an improvement over its predecessor, while still maintaining that treble extension to make air instruments like trumpets sound powerful and clear. Oh, my trumpets on the Mest Mark III, they sound sharp and airy without sounding too piercing. But if you've been used to or fallen in love with the Mest Mark II's treble sparkle, then I feel that's what's been taken away from the Mest Mark III, and this may disappoint you if you're expecting similar presentations. For technicalities, this is where the Mest series IEM shines best, as far as I've heard. You often hear people come up with the term holographic presentation. If there's an IEM that I would say represents that term, it would be the Unique Melody Mest Mark III, because there's all these sounds in the track coming in at different directions, and they are well separated enough that you can pinpoint the location of all these sounds, and it's not a flat presentation in front of you. It's coming from the left, right, center, vertically, horizontally, and diagonally. All of the above also creates not only an illusion of a slightly wider soundstage, but also comes with depth, or in this case, an out of your ear, in-ear experience. Imagine putting your head in a bubble surrounded by sound. That would be the closest representation I can describe for the Mest Mark III. Despite the Mark III not sounding as sharp as the Mark II, don't be fooled by that, because the details on this IEM is as present as ever, with just a slightly smoother edge, which may be more appealing to the general masses as mentioned earlier. But of course, having that slightly smoother edge makes details not sound as pronounced, but this is in comparison again, but it can handle extremely busy tracks with ease, and you don't get the feeling of congestion listening to like anime tracks. However, having all those details in the track is quite an experience, and it can be a thrilling experience, but it can sometimes be a drawback, as it can sometimes take away the focus from your listening experience. It's like a concert finale and there's a massive firework finale happening in the background, and you get distracted with all the fireworks that you lose focus on the main attraction, which is the artist at center stage. So if the devil is in the details, the Unique Melody Mest Mark III is Lucifer. And if you don't like having too much info, then the Mark III may be a tad overwhelming for you. For me personally, I can't get enough of it. For power on my Hi-Fi MkIII 400 on the 4.4 termination, I get to about 9 o'clock on the dial, which is similar to the Unique Melody Mest Mark II. So to sum it all up, in my video on the Unique Melody Mest Mark II, I said that even if I didn't hear the Unique Melody Mest Mark III, I'd be fine, because I was extremely happy with how the Unique Melody Mest Mark II sounded. Now that I've heard the Unique Melody Mest Mark III, I wish I didn't, because it made me want the Unique Melody Mest Mark III as well. The presentation on the Mest Mark II is what makes it special, and the Mest Mark III gives it a little bit of a different presentation. It's slightly fuller in its note weight, it's much less sharper in its attack on the highs, which in itself is losing some of that special quality that made the Mest Mark II popular. But it still retains a lot of the core characteristics from the Mest Mark II and makes it a much easier listen for a lot of people. And that holographic imaging experience is something that still remains in the Mest series IEM, and it's something to behold. However, this is based on one man's opinion, and I'm curious to know yours. Would you take the plunge on the Unique Melody Mest Mark III, or will you remain where you are if you have the Unique Melody Mest Mark II? Comment below, let me know. And once again, I'd like to thank Damien and the Australian Review Tour, and to all of you for watching. Until the next experience, take care and happy listening.